enumerated in my volume as Os Ches. I don't think you have demarcation. Ches. What we learned the last couple of days is that in the Brias Ha'olam there is always a pnim and a chutz, or in more Kabbalistic language there is a tochen and a KLIpa, and neither one is a bad thing. Just everything has its place. Generally speaking, the strength of the Umas Ha'olam, even Esav, even Bilam, is in the KLIpa. They're pretty. And the strength of Klal Yisrael is in the Toich. Yafta l'kim l'yefes v'yishkoin ba'al l'shem. So Yaakov, Yoshev Oilam, Esav, Ish Soda. So there's the outside, inside, that's always there. Bilam talks about chutz. There's always the outside and the inside. And as you pointed out, it's not that the outside is necessarily sheker, it's just an outside. An outside is sheker if it doesn't cover any pnim. That's how the Gemara Megillah Darshans. Meaning the outside is not a sheker mitzad atzma, it's a sheker, it's a building. A building is not a sheker. It's only a sheker if it's proposing to be something which it's not, and it has no tochen inside. There's no family, there's no Kedusha, if there's nothing inside the building, so it's a building, it's an elephant. But if there's something b'fnim, so then it's a symbiotic relationship. It's a beautiful thing. So this is the ultimate goal, actually, of what Rebbe said, the famous Gemara with Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. But there's a famous goal of Hamleya Hachreva, of a symbiosis between Esav and Yaakov that he saw in himself, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, with his relationship with Antoninus, that finally, and then maybe again when Mashiach comes, it doesn't happen too often, but finally there's a cooperation between the chutz and the pnim, the way Moshe tzarich liot. That's the way the bria is. So that's what we were learning.
So there's a reason why we need to have that happen at the beginning of the Long Galus. There was this
with Rebbe and Antoninus.
Yeah.
Well, that because that's the goal of the Galus. In other words, he set the goal. Even the fact, I would venture to say, even the fact that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wrote down the Torah was a gather of creating a chetzonius to the previous. Wasn't dissimilar. It was dissimilar, but it wasn't dissimilar in concept than Sefer Torah Shlichta b'loshen Yavanis, which is the ultimate example or logo. Sefer Torah b'loshen Yavanis. Imagine a Hagba with Sefer Torah b'loshen Yavanis. That's a Mashiach dik Sefer Torah in a certain way. It's a previous with a chetzonius, a beautiful font.
It's the opposite of tzad b'fiv.
The opposite of tzad b'fiv, because if that's when you have chetzonius without previous. Okay, now what we started to be masber, I want to try to get this right. It's here's the way it works with Rav Tzadok. Just the whole thing is easy to understand except for the first sentence, because the first sentence is where the yisoid is. So once we understand the yisoid, everything we can go at 70 miles an hour. But let's go back to the famous Chazal that HaKadosh Baruch Hu traveled Kilu Yachol to the Umas Ha'olam to offer them the Torah before he offered it to us, and we said Esav and Yishmael. Parshas Yisro. Hafiyah Me'ar Paran. I always forget the order over there. Zarach Miser Lama. Hafiyah Me'ar Paran. Zarach Miser Lama. So Har Paran is the area of Yishmael, and Seir is both on the east side of the Sinai Peninsula, and Seir is the area of Esav. And somehow, not only HaKadosh Baruch Hu went there first, as the Gemara puts it, which is a nice story from Chazal, but Mehar Seir. That's where the Shlit'a came from. What was it doing? Shlit'a by koi b'paran. Shlit'a by koi b'seir. What was the Shlit'a doing there to begin with? So the Gemara says an answer that he went to ask them if they want the Torah. For some strange reason, everybody's heard 100 vertelach on why HaKadosh Baruch Hu offered them the Torah before he offered to us. The Zohar says, Ala Makom, in B'zayis HaBracha, the Zohar says it's that Yisro ha-chachma min ha-sichlus ki Yisro ha-choshech min ha-or min ha-choshech, that the Yitaron, which would normally be translated as the advantage of chachma over foolishness, is like the difference between dark and night and day. Yisrael ha'or min ha'choshech. Okay, there's no big chiddush in this, right? We know that light is a lot nicer than dark, and we know that chachma is a lot nicer than foolishness, l'chayr. So Shlomo HaMelech comes and he takes the two things and he says together that if you want to understand the relationship of chachma and sichlus, it's the same relationship as choshech and or. So is there something amok here or not? So says the Zohar that understand this pasuk that HaKadosh Baruch Hu came from Seir. He came from Paran. That was the choshech. And from that choshech he came to Klal Yisrael. So coming to the Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar was, and the response of Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar, and I'm going slowly b'hadroga, says the Zohar, that was Ki Yisro ha'or min ha'choshech. That was like going from dark to night. So it doesn't explain why that needed to be done. But we're understanding here something very deep. And that is that the KLIpa and the Teichen. The KLIpa is choshech, and the Teichen is or. You have to get through a KLIpa. You try to eat an eggshell. It's KLIpa, but you need the eggshell. So what was HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing in Seir? What was HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing in Paran and Yishmael? The answer is very simple. You need a KLIpa. And he was going from that KLIpa into the makam of Or, which is Bnei Yisrael. And in that makam of Or, they were able to say Esav and Yishmael. So we're still now holding in a superficial pshat. Why? Because the way, just follow me carefully here for a minute, because otherwise I'll get mixed up. Because we're still talking about the theory of relativity here, which is superficial. We're still talking about, compare Ki Yisro ha'or min ha'choshech. When you want to compare Bnei Yisrael to Esav and to Yishmael, it's like comparing day and night. There's no comparison. Comes Rav Tzadok and others Sfarim, and they teach that that's not what it means when you learn your own pshat. It's not the pshat that somehow, meaning the simple pshat is that compared to Esav, which were Reitzchim, compared to Yishmael, which were Balei Taiva, which the Gemara articulates by saying that Hashem asked them, do you want the Torah? And they said, what does it say in there? And they said, Lo sirtzach. And they said, okay, it's not for us. You're Reitzchim. So compared to the people that are Reitzchim, you have a choshech. Now you come to Bnei Yisrael, we say Esav and Yishmael, we're or. That's the simple. So the Gemara is not saying a different drasha. The Gemara is saying the Zohar in very simple language, meaning like how do you understand Yisro ha'or min ha'choshech? Then just take a look. They're Reitzchim. So it's not just they didn't get the Torah because they were Reitzchim. This brought out a certain light in Klal Yisrael. That take a look. I offered them the Torah. They said no, we don't want it because it says Lo sirtzach.
It's not very complimentary.
Right. It's not complimentary, and it makes Klal Yisrael shine. Like it makes Klal Yisrael shine. Not just because we were makabel with betacha and But because we didn't have this problem l'chayra with Ritzicha, and we didn't have this problem with Taivas ad kedei kach, that we weren't willing to say the Torah. Even though Rabbi Haber asks this this question, he says, and if Klal Yisrael, it seems that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was giving each nation something which was too hard for them. Poor salesmanship on Hashem's part. What does it say that says, "Oh, kill"? What are you giving them the one thing that they can't do? Okay, so what would he have given, says Rabbi Haber, if we would have said, Bimkom Esav and Yishmael, if we would have said, Maksiv me, what would he have told us that we would have said, okay, it's not for us?
That's a scary thought.
Scary thoughts. As Rabbi Haber, he would have told us not to speak Lashon Hara. We won't kill anybody, we're not going to, we can control ourselves, but need to talk at least, So it's good we didn't say Maksiv me, Esav and Yishmael, so we're cobble that one. It's like we got that one under the wire. Slipped it in there. Yeah. It's a tough one. That's the side of a Jew. Talks too much.
It's interesting how the Shekhinah was in Mekedem, where it's light, supposedly light. It's like the opposite. I don't...
Explain your question, I'm sorry.
If you came from the east, which is where it's light,
yeah.
to the west.
Sunrise.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's KLIpa though. KLIpa is substance that's good.
If it's covering a pnim.
Yeah. So but from choshech is emptiness. It's nothingness. So choshech, the or, is there's nothing functional there in the choshech. But there.
You're assuming choshech is a negative thing. So this is what this is.
We are, but in a sense, it's just nothing. It's nothing. There's no KLIpa in the choshech. It's the lack of choshech or the lack of KLIpa of any sort. It's just empty, right? Isn't that what choshech is?
So that's what I want to explain here. This is video what I want to be mavire here in the next couple of minutes.
The lack of evidence is the evidence of lack.
That's the choshech. We're seeing choshech as a negativity. Nothing there. So everybody's saying in a different way, that's good for the Makkah Bavar. Why exactly? We're not explaining also, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to do this? Let's try to understand. Why did he have to do this? Why did you go to Yishmael? Why did you go to Esav? Why did you have to come from Choshech? So let's learn a new touch. Yisro ha'or mina Choshech. It's not that the light compared to the darkness shines, but Yisro ha'or min ha'choshech. Where does the Yisro ha'or come from? Comes from Choshech. Choshech is the fuel which is illuminating or igniting or giving fuel to the or of the pnim. So it's not just that it's a choshech compared to Yisro or min ha'choshech. Well, if I have to compare or and choshech, I'm going to go with the or. No. Yisro or, there would be no or if there wasn't a choshech surrounding it. You would be able to buy no eggs if there were no egg shells. But it's not just a protection. It seems to be something even deeper, that it is gufa the makar of the or. I'll give you an example of this, and this is really the such a wonderful yesod, a deep yesod, a chiddush for life. Parshas Yisro, a Yishma Yisro. There's a machlokes rishonim actually whether this whole story with Yisro coming happened before Matan Torah or after Matan Torah. The Zohar says as follows: that if Yisro would not have come, there wouldn't have been a Matan Torah. And if Yisro, says the Zohar, if Yisro, I can understand this pasha. Yisro came and he gave an eitzah. We have to have a system here of sorry alafim, sorry beyos, dayanim. You have to have a system. A system, in our understanding, is Malchus. Is that a system? We're all marching in order. We have a pecking order. We have a form of command. You have a general. You have a sergeant. That's Malchus. Meaning, if the Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving, and the Hashras HaShechina is going to hit the ground and permeate the earth, you need a system. It's going to come out with Seder. So if Yisro were to come, there wouldn't have been a kli to be makabel the Torah. So this Eitzah wasn't just, okay, Moshe, very nice, Navi, up on Har Sinai, took the people out of Mitzrayim, now let me give you a course of time management. That wasn't what was going on here. Where's the KLIpa for the Shechina? That was Yisro's contribution. Let me show you a KLIpa. Moshe Rabbeinu, you're up in the stars. You're up on Har Sinai. You're not bringing it down to earth enough. Yisro himself, according to that line of thinking, was the opposite of what he was miyayitz. He was a loner. He gave up everything. He was like Avraham Avinu. Echad hoya Avraham. Right? He gave up the avodah zaras. He gave up everything. The Medrash says that he was like in cherub over there in Midian. That's why his daughters were working for him. Moshe Rabbeinu heard about this man that was like Avraham Avinu. He heard about him from Ethiopia. He heard about this guy Yisro, gave up all the idols, and everybody put him a cherub. He went from being the Pope, for the Kohen to being like a guy who can't make a living. So Moshe went to help him and become a shepherd. I'm going to support this guy. So it says so explain those that know. That's the pshat in Yisro. So Yisro comes along, but Yishma Yisro. So Yisro is mamish like the Oisius of Torah plus 5. Right? Yisro, tough, reish, vav. Torah, except it says a vav instead of a hey. So plus, meaning, the Svarim explained that Yisro was mesader the Shechina into Chamisha Chumshei Torah. That was the 5. So, if not for Yisro, it wouldn't have been a matan Torah. The Omek HaPshat is, it is just Al Derech that we're learning here in Rav Tzadok. The Omek HaPshat is that Yisro came from tremendous choshech. Yisro was over every avodah zarah in the world. And if you look at the Makairos, every avodah zarah in the world he worshipped. Every shita in the world, every shita of philosophy, every shita of psychology, everything. He was a bucky in the KLIpa. Mr. KLIpa. He won the KLIpa of the World of the Year Award. Ultimate. So he was the choshech. He was the bucky in the choshech. And he said that the choshech is choshech. Not that it's bad, but this needs to bring us to something else. Ba'ashvu Hashama Oba. So he came from the choshech, and he came to Klal Yisrael, came to Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar, to the makam of the Or. So Yisro
That his Eitzah was a klipadik Eitzah.
was an Eitzah of KLIpa. Why?
Because he gave it over to the
Keli. The Keli. What's a Keli if not a KLIpa?
It's a klipadik Eitzah.
What's a Keli? This is a KLIpa because it's holding Torah. This is a KLIpa because it's holding the Sefer. Everything that's a Keli, right? Your cup that you're putting your coffee in is a Keli because it's holding the Kedusha of the coffee. So KLIpa, bad thing? It's a bad thing if it's empty.
It's necessary.
It's a bad thing if it's empty, and if you makes it look full, it's tayyid b'fiv. It's then it's fake. But is it a bad thing? No. Toichai kibaroi. That's what we learned in the Gemara. That Rabbi Gamliel was makbid and everyone. There's toichai kibaroi. You have a beautiful kli. You have a wonderful kli. Now make your toichai kibaroi. Fill it up with good stuff. So when we talk about Yisro giving his Eitzah to the Bnei Yisrael, we're talking about coming and taking the choshech of the KLIpa and bringing it into the Bnei Yisrael. So Yisro oisi is Torah plus hey, putting that forth, putting it down for Moshe Rabbeinu, and now you have a kli that you can come and be makabel the Torah, and Yisro goes home. Disappears, never to be heard of again. Because there's no place for me here. This is the R. But I want you to know, says Yisro, that where is the R coming from? Mina choshech. Without my choshech, there would be no R. Now let's understand the depth of choshech, of taking of taking everything that he ever did, al Schwarz Yor, like every Avodah Zarah, and every Shita, and every Mishagas even that he went through, every KLIpa that he went through, and saying, this is going to be a KLIpa for Or, otherwise there will be no Or. So what that's called is a Gilui. Comes to Zohar, and the Zohar says, unbelievable thing. It says, you know what happens when you're Yisro HaChoshech, all I'm saying is, I'm teaching the Zohar according to the Mepharshim. Yisro HaOr min HaChoshech, that the only reason why there's Or is because there's Choshech. It's not a comparison. We're not doing relativity here. What does it mean? It means like that just like Yisro took the Choshech and he created with it Or. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, says the Zohar, Yoses Choshech Oiroi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sits in darkness, Kiviyachol. What does it mean, darkness? Nobody sees him. Nobody understands him. We dive into him, but we're not allowed to picture him. We're in a very difficult situation here with God.
It's dark.
Dark.
Yes,
It's dark.
yes,
It's
it's
dark.
His ultimate Lord.
But as a Yisro goes b'nachoshech al Or, so does HaKadosh Baruch Hu come b'nachoshech al Or, and is Megala himself. And that is what Matan Torah is. Matan Torah was a Gilui of Shlit'a of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world.
That's maybe why.
That is Matan Torah. Who's that? Just absorb this for a second. Meaning that if Yisro wouldn't have come, there wouldn't have been a Matan Torah, because you needed the ultimate Gilui from Choshech to Or. You needed the Or to come out of the Choshech in this world in order for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be Megal himself. What was Matan Torah if not a Gilui Elikus? So here's the Chumash standing here. Show you how Moyer did.
That's why we're not Malachim. That's why we're not Malachim. That's why it only takes us human beings, Gashmis, the people.
Absolutely. Not Malach.
Like it's Shemesh Chizuk. It's only us to our Gashmis, Los of Adam, that we can be Megalit. Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Vayishma Yisro, Kohen Midyan, Chosen Moshe, Eskol Asher Asa Elokim LaMoshe Yisrael Amai. Ki Hoitzi Hashem Es Yisrael Mimitzrayim. So the diuk in the pasuk is Eskol Asher Asa Elokim LaMoshe. Elokim is always Midas Hadin, which is minister. We don't necessarily see the kindness and the greatness of Hashem and Midas Hadin. Ki hoitzi Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei Es Yisrael Mimitzrayim. I heard once a remes to this. So it went from Elokim to Hashem, went from Choshech to Or. But it's deeper than that. I don't want to get lost in the words, Ivri. It's deeper than that. That you can't have a Yud Kei Vav Kei without the Shem Elokim. Lo lech. Ein davar kazeh. You can only have the avos, which were Midas Elokim Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei Loi. I didn't tell them. Didn't even ask me. Moshe Rabbeinu said, we're doing Gilui here, God. Ba'era Hashem El Moshe, we're doing Gilui. Gilui is, let's take Elokim, this one you see the pasuk. Elokim, turning it into Hashem. Taking the Midas Hadin and being Megalit. That's what Yisro did. Because he came from Choshech to Or. He came. And what did he hear? Misas Mitzrayim, Mechias Amalek, all the KLIpa guys. They're the KLIpa guys moving in.
Sounds like he brought the Nasa before the Nishma.
He brought the Nasa before the Nishma, B'diuk Emes. It was B'diuk Emes. I once heard a rabbis like this, that Elokim, let's go quick. Elokim and Yud Kei Vav Kei, those two names of Hashem together equal what? Quick. Come on. 112 I choose it. Right? Right? Elokim?
6 and 20.
26 is Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's an easy one.
86.
And 86 is 112. Right? So 86 and 26 is 112. Gematria, Pashat, Hotzi. Hotzi. Ki Hotzi. Gilui. Hotzi Hashem. So in other words, Elikim, Yud Kei Vav Kei, going from Seiser, going from Choshech to Or, the Hoitzah. So Ki Hotzi Hashem as Yisro Mitzrayim. There was a Gilui. So Yisro was the Gilui of Matan Torah.
It was a real Yisro. It was Yisro.
That's the shot. Yitar Parsha Achas Atotechaz. Kol Am Rashi says Atotechaz. There was a Chazayon. You're able to see now. We're able to see. You imagine like what would it be without what would it be without Yisro? The Torah would have remained. There wouldn't have been a Matan Torah because where's the Gilui? And it had to come al yedei somebody who was going from Choshech to Or. It had to come from Yisro. So that's beautiful. What the Torah is teaching, beautiful Torah.
What's the connection between Yisro's past and his chiddush that he made a kli to?
He took his past and he made it into a kli for Or.
His past was being over all the avodah zaras. So how did that translate into?
You mean what's the omek of that? I'll tell you what I think. Let's take because avodah zara is avodah zara is an avodah to the emtsayim. Is the avodah KLIpa. You take, in other words, avodah zara. What's avodah zara? Avodah zara is we want it to rain, so let's make a god that's going to make it rain. Let's make a rain god. Meaning it's not hitting the etzem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's just dive into Hashem. It's all about avodah zara, like the Rambam explains. It was all about the KLIpa. They got stuck in the KLIpa. And they figured, the Rambam says, that from there they'll get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu somehow. But they forgot about Hashem. That's what the Rambam says. They forgot about Hashem. Avraham Avinu flipped it. There was a hipuch. Avraham Avinu took it and turned he said, let's do it the other way around. Let's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let's forget about the avodah zaras. Okay, you'll need a skula here and there. We'll do a little avodah zara here and there. But that's don't forget about God.
This is fash. What is KLIpa? It's fash.
Became.
It's fash.
It became. In other words, until you no. Mazolos, let's say, Ovid Kerchavim Mazolos, so it's easier for us to understand. Mazolos are not false. Taka an expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Taka a signature of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You see, even Tanai understood it that way. But it's not a Mazal Yisrael. It's not important because that's still in the KLIpa. That's in the world of Bria already. The Mazolos. Atzilos Bria Yitzira Asiya. So Eitz V'Evan is in. If you start worshiping Mazolos or Nachmer, Malachim, but it's still KLIpa until you get to the Pneim of Atzilus. So that's the kasher. Now, so what? So Rav Tzadok as follows: Yisro Zehu ha'haifa me'ar paran. So now we're understanding why the Shechina needed to be like Yisro. The Shechina needed to be benister before it could come benigla. Yashas choshech oira, even HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is cloaked in darkness. So the Shechina was sitting Bahar Paran, it was sitting Bahar Seir, it was sitting with those KLIpa guys. Hashkuim b'taivus, Yisro in ha'ar Yisrael haya haifa she'ena zricha gluya rak madregas ruach hakodesh negen nevuah. Shudvar Hashem beiskalus v'zel asagas Torah shebeksav. We got from the Choshech. Let me explain this. We got something out of the Choshech of Esav and something a little different from the Choshech of Yishmael. Now that we're understanding the Yisro and Ha'or min HaChoshech, that the Or comes from the Choshech gives Leida like a baby, right? Sits in darkness until it comes the Or. Choshech gives birth to Or. Yisro and Ha'or min HaChoshech. the Shechina sat in Yishmael, the Shechina sat in Esav, that was the Choshech, and that gave birth to the Or of Matan Torah. Just like Yisro had to come. The Choshech of, let's understand this, the Choshech of Esav was the Rosh was buried in the, it was the ultimate KLIpa of Chitzonius. It was ultimate KLIpa of Chitzonius. He was an Ish Chitzoni. He was a Baki in Chitzonius. He fooled Yitzchak with his Chitzonius. Or Yitzchak was attracted to this Chitzonius. So he liked that Yitzchak liked it. He liked that he was a Keli in Olam Haza, and he knew how to hunt, and he knew how to ask shilos, and he was probably a good-looking guy.
Avram knew that the Shekhinah was in Kedem because he sent his family.
Well, Eretz Kedem.
He sent them all there.
Also to the KLIpa.
And Hagar, the Shekhinah came
Absolutely. This is Kol HaTorah Kula.
Yeah.
It's Kol HaTorah Kula. From Bereshis to Dvar. But what did we get? I'm going to say it out loud outside, and then we'll learn it inside. We got one thing from the KLIpa of Esav, which was the Chutz Lagamri, and a different thing from the KLIpa of Yishmael, which was more Pnimi.
Mm-hmm.
It was more Pnimi, Shkuyim B'Taivas, because their problem was Taiva. So, and they don't look so good, Yishmael.
I mean, the KLIpa is not so good.
No, thank you. Roman, like Esav, Italians look good. Arabs don't look good. They don't have the Chitzoni, but they have something which looks almost like a Pnimius. I'm not being matchstick, but I'm just saying when you see they're davening on the highway. There's something which looks almost like a pneumius. We give them credit for the pneumius, that they give up their lives to kill Jews. It's like serious nefesh. They really blow themselves up. So
You're not pro that.
What?
You're not pro that, though, right?
I'm just saying that there's something's going on in these guys. It's assuming they're Yishmael for a second. But I'm just saying, there's something there. So comes from Tzadok, he tells phenomenal that you want to understand what we got from Esav and what we got from Yishmael. Esav, which was Chutzonius Lagamri, we received Nevuah, the gift of Nevuah. And from Yishmael, that was more Pnimi, we received the gift of Ruach HaKodesh. What's the difference between Nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh? Nevuah is coming from the outside, talk to me, God, and Hashem speaks to me. It's Nevuah. Ruach HaKodesh is something that comes b'fnim. Tzaddik with Ruach HaKodesh has a certain regesh about something. It's very subtle, I hear. We're not going today for Nevuah. There's no Nevuah. Pascha Nevuah Am Yisrael. Already a long time ago. Chorban Beis HaMikdash. Pascha Nevuah Am Yisrael. I should say by the Binyan Beis HaMikdash. Because I'll say that when Alexander the Great, the KLIpa, walked into the Vayisheni, at the end of the it's the cessation of prophecy. But the difference between Nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh is the difference between Chutz and Pnim. The difference between Nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh is the difference between Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh. Torah Shebiksav, okay, I'm reading it, I hear it. It's there. It's Begilui. Torah Shebal Peh, I have to work so hard from the Pnim to be Motzi, a Svara, a Kal V'chomer, a Ma'amatzino, the work of a Gemara, the work of Chazal. The work of Chazal was B'machshachim Zu Talmud Bavli. That they took, it's pasuk, it's Chazal. B'machshachim Zu Talmud Bavli. The Talmud Bavli is to take or out of Choshech. To take or out of Choshech. Confusion. You open up a Gemara, confusion. People that are used to easy things can't learn Gemara. Learn Rav Tzadok, something like that. Easy.
Oh yeah.
So the difference between the difference between chutz and pnim is the difference between nuvuah and ruach hakodesh, which is the difference between Torah sheb'ksav and Torah sheb'al peh, which is the difference between Esav and Yishmael, because Esav was chutz lagamri, and because from the KLIpa of Esav, okay, we're taking like Vayishma Yisro, like Yisro brought the KLIpa with him. What are we taking from the KLIpa of Esav? We're getting a Torah sheb'ksav. What are we taking from the KLIpa of Yishmael? Something much more pnimi. So we're taking the Torah sheb'al peh. So it means to say that if there wouldn't have been this KLIpa of Esav and this KLIpa of Yishmael, we wouldn't have been zocheh to the Torah sheb'ksav and Torah sheb'al peh. So ma koi b'paran, ma koi b'seir, what was Hashem doing in the world were you hanging out in Esav for? The answer is that he's building Torah sheb'ksav and Torah sheb'al peh. Ki Yisro in ha'or, where does the or come from? Min ha'choshech. Now, in fact, Nevuah is much stronger than Ruach HaKodesh. In the sense that we like it, it's much more chitzoni. But you see throughout history, you go through Tanakh, Jews didn't listen to Nevi'im. From Moshe Rabbeinu to the end. And listen, I tell you even more, Yeshiva Bachram also don't listen to Nevi'im. Who reads Nevi'im? Well, it's like the big kasha, why don't we learn Tanakh? We learn Gemara. Well, I'm not saying good, bad. I'm just saying that it's minachutz. Okay, in Kabbalah, it's minachutz. Yirmiyahu is screaming at us again. Yeshayahu is blessing us. But nice. Torah sheb'al peh is pnimi b'yoser. So somehow or another we relate more to the KLIpas Yishmael than to the KLIpas Esav. Because it's the Zman that we live in. You go minachutz al pnim until you have the complete Hiskalos. So let's go back over Yisro.
Interesting.
If not for Yisro, if Yisro wouldn't have come, there would not have been a matan Torah. There would not have been a matan Torah if without Yisro's Eitzah, KLIpa Eitzah, Chitzonius Eitzah, there would not have been a Malchus for Ashras HaShechina. What's the Shechina going to do? Where's it going to go if you don't have the Seder that Yisro is making? If not for... So, okay, are we interested? We have the Seder. We did that. We were beside Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wrote down the Torah. He wrote down the Torah. It's Masudar. And you look where we're running to. We're running into Rabbi Haber. I'm not saying good bad. I'm just saying it's a phenomenon of bringing min KLIpa el apnim.
It's interesting that the Christians learn the Navi.
Yeah, the KLIpa for sure. KLIpa say so. And if you'll ask them what but the Gemara says if you want to debate with Christians and go over the Talmud is just it's a human sort of human interpretation, but sophistry in what the Scripture says. But but we're Pnimi Yosef. So what I just want to say is that Mitzad Echad Nevuah is greater than Ruach HaKodesh. Mitzad Sheni Ruach HaKodesh speaks to us more. Udati.
But we're attracted to the Nevuah more because it's
Easy. We're attracted to everything glitzy and superficial, and that's what we like. But the fact is that Ruach HaKodesh is deeper. Ruach HaKodesh is deeper. Ruach HaKodesh is like really getting it internally and then giving it over internally. And Ruach HaKodesh is something that we could all work for. It's not just something which is zapped on me. It's Ruach HaKodesh. So let's just see a couple of words here. Yisro no ar Yisrael hayahayfa she'ein azricha gluya rak madregas Ruach HaKodesh naged nevuah shehu dvar Hashem behiskalus v'zeu asagas Torah sheb'ksav. So from the hiskalus of Esav, we took something complicated and Mamash Baruch Hashem, we brought it down to earth here. Ruach HaKodesh hu nevuas hachachamim. Nevuas hachachamim. Ruach HaKodesh is what it's called when a chacham has nevuah. If you go to a true Talmud chacham or a true tzaddik, his nevuah is called Ruach HaKodesh. B'madayik, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. It's Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh hu nevuas HaChachamim b'hasaga de Torah shebal peh. It's an internalization. It's a davar pnimi. Ruach HaKodesh. D'yicholim lahasig yoiser. Says Rav Tzadok, and with Ruach HaKodesh, you can go further than you can go with nevuah. So you start liking Ruach HaKodesh. It's pashut. Why? Because nevuah is what it is. This is what Hashem said. He said not more, he said not less. Tein l'chacham v'yichachem moed. Now with Torah Shebal Peh, I can make 60 volumes of the Gemara and a million Svarim explaining the Gemara. So there's unlimited. The unlimited aspect of Torah is in Torah Shebal Peh. That's the unlimited aspect of Ruach HaKodesh. You can go much further. It comes out in some bechina, in a certain bechina. I don't want to get shot, but maybe the Chafetz Chaim was bigger than Yirmiyahu in this sense, because it was unlimited. It was like Torah Shebal Peh as opposed to Torah Shebiksav. Ruach HaKodesh hu nevuas HaChachamim ba'asagas to Torah Shebal Peh pnimi yicholim lahasig yoiser. How do we know that? Moshe Isa Rasaina Rabbi Akiva. The Medrash says that Rabbi Akiva, who was already in the Zman of Ruach HaKodesh, not in the Zman of Nevuah, he understood all the workings of the Malachim, says the Zohar. Medrash Rabbah. Kain Menachos in the famous Gemara Menachos Chavtes, Neged Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe Rabbeinu sat and listened. Hashem gave him a free ticket to listen to a shir of Rabbi Akiva. He didn't even understand what Rabbi Akiva was saying. He says,
Because he was the 50th versus the 49th.
because he was Torah Shebal Peh as opposed to Torah Shebiksav.
I was looking at the KLIpa world.
Even Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't understand Rabbi Akiva. Why? Because Ruach HaKodesh is bigger than Nevuah. What one can accomplish with the kalim that are given to us is more than what can be zapped on us mibachutz. Look, understand it from a mashal, from an educational point of view. What's going to be better for a child to if you can beam a bunch of information into his head, make him memorize the whole Torah, or something which teaching a child how to think, and bringing out the Ruach HaKodesh Shabbai. It's unlimited. It's unlimited. What can happen with the child? Just like a mashal, what can happen with a child whose Ruach HaKodesh is not Nevuah?
And the Nevuah was the Chidah, though. Nevuah, you had to figure out what the Nevuah was. It wasn't just a purely passive act, right? I mean,
It had to be.
you had to figure out what the letters were spelling.
Yeah, there was something to it.
I thought that
There was something because there was still an exchange from Choshech to Or, but it wasn't. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying Matan Torah was also. But this was the difference, by the way, between Luchas Rishonos and Luchas Shniyos. So it's important to understand that the whole Luchas Shniyos was about Psol Lecha Shnei Luchas Avanim Karishonim. It was all Moshe's work. Took it from under his oil. He took those sapphire stones, right? He took it. It was all Moshe's work. It had to come from Moshe, because the Nevuah Greda of Luchas Rishonos did not stop Klal Yisrael from building an Egel, because it was Minasafa Luchutz for Klal Yisrael. It was only when it became Pnimi of Luchas Shniyos b'Chashonim. No, it was quiet. It was meditative. It was deep. It was something that Torah Shebal Peh. Torah Shebal Peh is.
I think the Itzvah says that the Nevuah, besides the Nevuah for the Am, there's also Nevuah where a Navi would just look at a person and see what's there. Like
Ramban.
The Neshama.
Ramban.
Right? And then after the Nevuah left, so then it's up to the person to actually see what Navi was able to see easier than the Chutz.
Right. If you don't do anything with it, it's
So
still.
now you have to do it. Now
It's
you
still
have to-
Torah Shebiksav.
But it's there. It was always there. He just saw it from Bachutz, but now it's still there for us to find inside.
Amos. With it. B'chein neged Moshe Rabbeinu, we see that Rabbi Akiva understood Torah better than Moshe Rabbeinu. Avol, and here's the point, hu hasaga behelim. It was all hidden. It was hidden stuff. כדרך שדרשו במחשכים, או שכיוונתי, במחשכים זו תלמודו של בבל. The Talmud Bavli is Choshech. So Yisro was Choshech, and Esav was Choshech. Esav didn't do what Yisro did. He didn't walk the line. He didn't walk over the line from Choshech to Or. He didn't bring the KLIpa into Klal Yisrael. Yisro did. And I just want to make the point clear. If Yisro didn't come, there wouldn't have been a matan Torah. It was waiting for him. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't realize it. Nobody realized that he had a nevuah. Said, your father-in-law was come and go greet him. Because you need that keli. You need the keli. You need the choshech. Yisro or mina choshech. V'machshachim zeh Talmud Bavli. Ki ha'adam, great sentence. Ha'adam eino yodei ba'atzmo shezeh ruach hakodesh v'yisgalus me'Hashem yisparach. Person has ruach hakodesh, you don't even know you're having ruach hakodesh. I'm working, and finally I understand something. What are we looking at that? We're looking at it as our intelligence.
The Ramchal says that anyone out of the Nebuah is 100% sure he had a Nebuah.
As opposed to Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah, it was like, wow, did I just have Ruach HaKodesh? It was my Yagiyah. But, it's... anybody, and I presume everybody here who's really worked hard at least once in Limud Torah, I mean, in real Limud Torah, understands that you can try to figure something out, and you can rack your brains in trying to figure it out. A svara, a migu, a yush shalom midas. You can try to figure out the svara and try to understand a kasha, and all of a sudden, boom. You get the answer, and the answer has nothing to do with anything you were thinking about, b'chlal. Did you ever have that experience? So I wasted my time thinking. Just give me the nevuah. The answer is that's Ruach HaKodesh. I'm not saying that's what the Vilna Gaon calls, and the Evan Shlomo, that's what he calls Ruach HaKodesh. Now miyageya, and the answer comes from the other side of the world. Somebody came to speak to me about Shabbos. I'll tell you, we'll hear this. He said to me, he didn't know whether to make the Rav in America. He came with his wife to speak to me. They didn't know whether to make Aliyah, not to make Aliyah. They're going back and forth. Make Aliyah, not make Aliyah. So they decided to go to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Shlit'a, in Bnei Brak, and they muscled their way in there in the room. And he's explained to me that he had his 1 minute with Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And he explained to Rav Chaim Kanievsky very quickly that he's a Rav in America, and he doesn't know should he give up his Rabbanus in America to come to Eretz Yisrael, and what's he going to do in Eretz Yisrael, and what about Parnasim? So Rav Chaim Kanievsky told him, Tavo v'tilmod b'koilom. So come learn in a kollel. So he says to me, like, this is not one of the options, to come learn in kollel, what about, you didn't answer my Parnasa problem, you didn't answer my covet problem, you didn't answer my Kiruv problem, my Harbatzah Torah, what come learn in kollel. So I said, maybe you misunderstood what he said. He said, what he maybe went to say is that you want an answer to your question, go to a kollel, sit down and learn the Shema like the guide says for an hour, and somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, this is what you should do. Never fails. The guide says that if you don't know what to do, if you have like a real suffix, you really don't know what to do. It's a big decision to make. So sit down, learn Torah Lishma for an hour. Like that's an easy thing to do, right? Sit down, learn Torah Lishma. And the first thing that comes to your mind is Ruach HaKodesh. So says the guide. But it's coming from my Yigiyah. So that's probably what Rav Chaim meant. He mentioned learning Torah. Okay, you have to do some work over here. Be miyageh. What are you coming to me for Ruach HaKodesh? For Nevuah, you come to me for Nevuah. Get your own Ruach HaKodesh over here. But maybe that's what he meant. A farish milad or like but the Yisoid Hadavar is that Ruach HaKodesh is subtle, and you don't even know if you're having it. But that's what it is. You want to identify it. It's coming from. So it's a gather of like Rav Chaim Brisker said, Yagata umatzasa taimen. That if somebody does Yigiyah in Torah, and then they get the Torah, believe them. Yagati v'loy matzasi al taimen. So he says that a mitzvah is something you find on the street. You find a wallet on the street. your Yigia helps nothing for that. But I'm going to go out today and I'm going to spend time trying to find a lost wallet. where are you looking? What are you doing? You walk around the Geiger counter? What does it mean to what's the Yigia? So Rav Chaim says, he Amesenes, that's good for the Vart, that the Yigia has nothing to do with the Metzia. The Yigia has nothing to do with the Metzia. But Yagata, then you have the Siyata D'Shmai and the Ruach HaKodesh of Matzasa. So the Yigia b'Torah creates a Matzasa of Torah, but the two things are rubbish not connected. But it's subtle, it's Behelim, and that's the Yisro that came from the Choshech to the Or and brought the matan Torah with them. The Shechina had to come from Esav, the Shechina had to come from Yishmael.
Can there be human error in Ruach HaKodesh?
Can there what?
Be human error. Nuvuah we vision as perfection. Ruach HaKodesh is
I think even in Nevuah there can be error.
Yeah, hold on to be it. Right?
Yeah, hold on to it. I think even, in other words, ultimately, we have to interpret, and when you interpret, so your whole taiva and goof and everything is all involved. So there's always makom for error. We only hear what we want to hear.
So Ruach HaKodesh can also,
Can have an error.
If we're saying if it's coming from internal, it's,
Right. You see, the tzaddik is two parts. The tzaddik is the part that has the Ruach HaKodesh, meaning can search deeply inside of him to get the Ruach HaKodesh that comes with the Yigia, and then can articulate it and listen to it. It's easier to have Ruach HaKodesh for somebody else than have Ruach HaKodesh for yourself. Because when you articulate it, so that means you're getting past all of the Nagiyas and the Klipas and bringing it out. Very doable. It's doable though. Ruach HaKodesh is something we can accomplish.
You said that the Ruach is the Kli for Ruach HaKodesh, and for Nevuah, it's the Nefesh?
Goof.
It's the Ruach.
It's different. The transition from Goof to Nefesh, and the Ruach HaKodesh is Nefesh to Ruach. Now,
The Torah Shabbat was the Or, and the Torah Shabbat is the Choshech.
The Talmud Bavli.
So it's,
Meaning the Or that comes from the Choshech, from the Yigia of the Choshech.
but the Talmud Bavli, the Torah Shabbat, which came from the Torah Shabbat, it's the Choshech coming from the Or.
No. No. Talmud Bavli meaning was created in Bavel, Talmud Shel Bavel, which was a makam of Choshech. In the same way that the Shechina had to be in the makam of Choshech, and Esav, Yisro had to be in the makam of Choshech, because from that Choshech, pulling out the Netzitzes of Or, so pulling out the Torah Shabbat from the Torah Shabbat.
But if we look at the Talmud Bavli now, so it looks like Choshech.
Yeah, because we still have to finish that work. Its nature is taking from Choshech to Or. The nature of the Talmud Bavli is where the Talmud Chacham takes from Choshech to Or. There's Hotzi.
Because it's not
Which is Elokim to Hashem, because it's not Begillah. It's not Begillah. It's not.
Yerushalmi clear?
The argument, yeah.
I never heard Yerushalmi, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
But the
Shalmi is this big and the Bavli is that big.
okay.
Because there's no machlokas in it. It's it's very interesting that when the Schottenstein art scroll, so I believe it was Rabbi Yaacov Haber, who said that he's not sure if you're supposed to bring this this choshech into Or, because this is the job of the Talmud. Not sure if it's supposed to. So everyone's making. Have to. Everyone's making it easy. Let's bring this out of the sugya and with diagrams and with this. Everyone's making it easy. The whole generation is making it easy. I guess because we're losing everybody, but it's not necessarily supposed to be easy. No, it's not necessarily supposed to be easy. So somehow or another, the Balagolos and the carpenters in Poland. I tell you, I can remember my grandfather couldn't verstanden the Gemara. He simply, he would ask me what was I learning. When I told him, listen, he says, just learn Gemara. He didn't. There was no. They understood it without the art scroll, without everything. How did they understand it? Didn't even go to school. Because it was this avoda of Pnimi. It was a Pnimi avoda. So I'm not so sure. I think that's what Rabbi Yaakov said. I'm not so sure, making everything so easy. You're taking Torah Shabbat Pen, turning it, making it to a Bechina Torah Shabbat. That's what you're doing. Which could be, you have to,
to continue doing
Gotta
it.
go. Yeah.
I heard the story of Rabbi Yaakov that someone Malchus asked him and asked him whether he said whether he should learn Pshat because it makes that way he's able to learn Gemara, otherwise he's not able to learn Gemara. And he said, "Who said you have to learn Gemara?"
Well, it's the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. But I heard it.
You know, in yeshivas years ago, it was, I mean, in the old days, when I went to yeshivas,
Older days.
yeah, I mean, there was no art school, there was Sonsino.
That might have been harder than.
The crutch.
We worked a lot, yeah.
crutch.
I remember the Shiva telling us, look it up, and if you don't know where, look it up in the jazz show. We don't use the Sonsino, because you can't take the yagi out of it. So, you can understand it, well, you're never going to get the technique, you're never going to learn. Or that's goofa, the yagi is goofa, what you're supposed to be doing. That's exactly, racking your brains is what you're supposed to be doing. It's not supposed to be easy. Who said it's supposed to be easy? That's what he meant. Who said it's supposed to be easy?
So,